Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we welcome in an old friend today.
Yeah, we're welcoming back for her 16th appearance on The Verdict. We can almost call her a co-host on this show, Ann Baumen. Going to talk to us about the Women's Health Forum. That time of the year has come around again, and so once again she's put together a fantastic program that she wants to tell us about.
Incredible amount of information, not only on this show, but at the Women's Health Forum. We'll give you some information on how you can get involved with that, but Dr. Baumen's coming up right after this break.
I've always been a public servant. I've served either tribes, I've served the federal government, or I've served state governments. The law allows me to express my natural desire to advocate. My name is Stephanie Cochran. I am an attorney and I am Chickasaw. Lawyers give their clients, and in my case, tribal governments, a voice. And it's through legal decisions that tribes have been able to accomplish and to regain some much lost footing that they encountered in the late 1800s and the 1900s. When I reflect back on this time in history, I think I'll look at it in terms of opportunity. And I think now we have to turn those opportunities into long-term success for our future generations.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
I can do this without notes. Ann has been on 16 times. This is her 16th appearance. She is the medical director and director of women's health at Integris, has been at Integris since 1991. Prior to that, she did her education work, getting her MD and practicing in Michigan. She got her degree at Wayne State University. Since she moved to Oklahoma, she has been with Integris Health Center and has been director of women's health. She's the prime mover behind the Women's Health Forum, which is coming up very promptly, just a few days after this show airs. And we wanted her to come on and talk to us about that, along with anything else that's on her mind. Ann, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. How you been?
I've been doing well. Very busy, but that's what makes it fun.
Why don't we start with a graphic that shows the Women's Health Forum and a little bit of the details about how people can get more information.
Great.
We put it on the screen, then you can talk through it.
Yes. So the Women's Health Forum, registration begins September 14th. The actual event is October 11th through the 23rd. Actually the 24th. You can call and talk to a real live person at 405-951-2277 or 888-951-2277. You can register online at integrisok/WHF for Women's Health Forum. And you can do that 24 hours a day.
Sounds good. Now, you have so many different topics to cover, and you have a celebrity headliner coming back once again. Congratulations. Andie MacDowell's a big Hollywood name.
Continue to bring in big names.
I know. She's going to be marvelous. She's going to be talking about taking control of your health and talking, as the celebrities always do, about how that fits into their life. Everybody always enjoys hearing. She does a lot of philanthropic things as well, so I'm sure that she will be working that in. And of course, she has been a spokesperson for L'Oreal for 25 years, so that certainly has staying power there.
Wow. And of course, people may remember her from Groundhog's Day. It's probably
Yes.
the biggest blockbuster she's been in, although she's an accomplished actress in a lot of it, stage and screen.
She is, and she's got a television show going on now, and so it's just you see her often, and she just seems like a really neat person. So we'll have an opportunity to really experience that. And the nice thing about that is free. I mean, how often can you see somebody like that and have it for free? So we're excited about it.
Give us just a few of the details about her appearance. When is it going to be? Where is it going to be? That sort of thing.
It's going to be on October 11th, and that's a Sunday, and it'll be at the Civic Center. And so you can register for that. You do have to register in order to participate.
But there's no cost.
There's no cost, and registration actually starts September 14th. So tomorrow is when people can start registering for any of the events.
And let's talk about a segment that I believe you have something to do with, and it's called Cut the, and then these letters have dots after them, C-R-A-P. So
Right.
cut the crap. What are you trying to say, Mary
Yeah,
Ann?
quit beating around the bush.
Yeah, could be
Mary.
around the bush. What we're trying to say here. Well, when we talk about cutting the crap, there are new kind of sort of fad diets around that are looking at caffeine, looking at refined sugar, alcohol, and processed foods. And you know, we hear a lot about all of these things. And so I'm going to kind of wend my way through that and talk about what is good, what isn't good, what the latest data is on that, so people can kind of make a decision. It's very interesting because one of them is caffeine. And I have always been negative towards caffeine because it bounces people around, they can't sleep, they have headaches. But there is some new data about caffeine that is very interesting, and so I'll get into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, this is your presentation.
This is my presentation.
Is this the only one where you're presenting?
Yes, this is the only one where I'm presenting. I'm around during and moderating, but this is the one where I'm presenting.
Okay, and the refined sugar?
The refined sugar, there's all this talk about do we or don't we, and with the problems with obesity in our country and all of this sugar that we're getting, you see the examples of a can of soda and having this, you know, a test tube full of sugar in one can of soda. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Talk about the benefits and risks of alcohol and processed foods. You know, and what about all these chemicals that are in them? What about the salt? And probably my bias is there's so much salt in processed foods, especially the lunch meats, etc., that we get way too much salt.
I'm getting beyond CRAP in this question, but will you be talking at all about the vaping versus cigarette smoke versus
boy.
not doing anything?
It's not part of this talk, but I have very strong opinions, as you might imagine, about that. And I really think that this is a horrible thing that is happening with the vaping because it is still addicting people to nicotine. And that's not a healthy thing for your heart. That's not a healthy thing for your well-being. And the tobacco companies have said, oh, it will help you to quit smoking. But the data is kind of mixed on that about whether it really does. So I'm not in favor at this point. And the American Heart Association, which you both know I work a great deal about, has put out a statement that says that this is a nicotine product, and we do not recommend it.
Well, there's a girls' night out at the Women's Health Forum. Tell us about Girls' Night Out.
Girls' Night Out is always fun. We do a number of different things. We have a couple of our physicians who will be talking during that session. One of them will be talking about your hair and skin, and the other one will be talking about the non-invasive surgeries, the minimally invasive surgeries. And then we have a nice dinner at a great location, and then we have a fashion show. This is where we have our fashion show with both our men and women new physicians, and they get a chance to let their inner model out, and everybody, especially the guys, have a great time with it. So it's always a very much fun event.
Yeah.
Well, what about the topic we hear a lot about in various news outlets about vaccinations? Should you not? Recently, a story made the news about a couple that allowed their child to die, or the child died. I don't want to paraphrase it like I know what happened,
Yes.
but the child had not been vaccinated, and it was a real problem. Where are you on that?
This is a really scary thing that parents are afraid to vaccinate their children. Now, there was a study a long time ago that was really debunked that said vaccinations had contributed to autism. And actually that researcher in England was found to have been, had done some illegal things with and paying the families and all kinds of things. So it was a real issue, totally debunked. But that the internet is wonderful, but it also keeps things going that are not necessarily true. And that has made parents think and worried that this will cause autism in their children. We're seeing more autism these days, and we don't really know why. And so naturally, parents are looking for a reason for it. But there's no data that suggests that vaccinations cause autism. And it is a real public health worrisome issue that parents are not vaccinating, because there is something also called herd immunity, that if you have more and more people vaccinated, then the few people who are not, based on medical conditions that they can't be vaccinated, will not be exposed to the disease because everybody around them is vaccinated. And that's where we're running into problems, and that's why we are seeing outbreaks of measles and other infectious diseases, like in California, among babies that don't necessarily have immunity yet and haven't been vaccinated, and it's quite risky. So I'm very worried about it.
Who's making that presentation?
It's one of our family physicians, and he is going to be talking about not only the vaccinations for children, but also the vaccinations for adults, because there is a pneumonia, and there's a new, you may have seen it on television because it's advertised a lot, there's a new pneumonia shot. It's actually not a new shot, it's given in children, but for adults, called Prevnar, that people over 65 need once, along with the Pneumovax. And the reason we need both of them is when the Pneumovax, the original pneumonia shot that people got after age 65, it covered 85 to 90% of the strep pneumonias that cause pneumonia. Now it covers 55 to 60%, so we need to give people a little more. And then shingles vaccine. There's a new one that is in the works that will even protect better than the older one, but I'll tell you, shingles is such a horrible disease, a horribly painful disease, that I urge everybody to get that if your doctor recommends it.
Yeah, my mother, little personal note, got shingles and it got in her eye.
Yes.
And she suffered for years with that, and it didn't seem like it ever went away till she passed away.
No, I have a patient right now that got it in the eye, and it just keeps coming back and has to be on the medications again, and can cause blindness in the eye.
Well,
so,
it did in
yes.
my case, yes.
Yes, so these are serious things. Vaccinations are important. They are very important.
You have a segment about hormones.
Yes. Yes, always we need to talk about hormones, because the pendulum has swung forward and backwards, and we had the big women's study that said you increased your risk of heart attack, stroke, and breast cancer. But that study looked at women who started estrogen when they were 60, 65 years old. There are some more recent studies suggesting that if women started closer to the time when their period stopped, menopause, that it may be protective. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about breast screening and how women may find out if they're high risk, and the genetic counseling that can be done, and the genetic testing. There's a huge new world of information that to determine what your risk is for breast cancer. And Dr. Rabel, who is our breast radiologist, is going to be talking about that. And that will be an important topic to learn how you can have your risk assessed, especially if you have a family history.
Dr. Ann Baumen is our guest today on The Verdict. She's got the Women's Health Forum coming up later next month. We'll have another segment with Dr. Baumen right after this.
I didn't know that there were abandoned oil well sites on the property, but it turns out there were 3 of them. We saw those commercials, but never did we ever dream that it was going to happen out here. OARB came out and they cleaned up these old sites for us. And when you look at what they've done, it's absolutely fantastic. This whole plan out here is for the grandkids and just generations to come. The process is simple. Pick up the telephone. It's worth a phone call. Trust me, it's worth it.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. loyal to you.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Camp Myers, and our guest, Ann Baumen, who has the Women's Health Forum coming back, as she does, on an annual basis. I want to ask you, I'm wearing one of these wearables. This happens to be a Fitbit, not trying to endorse any product, but that's what it is.
Yes.
And it monitors my steps, it monitors my heart rate, how many floors I've climbed today, all sorts of information that may or may not be important. It's a little bit of a fad at this point, but I'd love to get your feedback on whether or not you think people wearing Fitbits are helping their health, or are they just confusing themselves?
Well, actually, I think the Fitbits are excellent because they do give you information, and so much of what we do is automatic and we don't pay attention to our lifestyle. The problem with the Fitbits and what the studies are showing is that the use of them kind of goes way down after 6 months. People are real enthusiastic about wearing them and following them, and then after about 6 months,
Mine broke after 6 months.
That's a different problem.
I had to buy a new one.
Yeah, that's planned obsolescence.
That's planned obsolescence. 6 months,
Yeah.
But it made you think about using it, right?
Well, I was using it, and
Yeah.
so I went out and got another one, and so I'm pretty emphatic about making sure I get 10,000 steps a day and those types of things. But what about that behavior about people who are looking at it and monitoring and
I think it's excellent. That behavior is very good because it does make you start to really, I know people who say, I'm a few steps short, I'm 1,000 steps short, so I went out and took a walk after dinner.
Yeah.
I think sometimes what happens is that the health conscious people like you are the ones who are most interested in it. And what we really need are to get the people who really are not moving, and that's what we hope to do, and not paying attention to their health, to start to be intrigued by this. And then we do have to answer this question about getting very enthusiastic for 6 months and then and it drops off. Because the whole point of this is consistency and forming good habits. That's
Right.
the key.
Well, steps isn't necessarily increasing your heart rate very much.
Right.
And so is it a cardiovascular exercise if you're just merely getting in steps, or do you have to have that aerobic behavior?
It's both. You certainly improve the muscle function with the aerobic behavior, and I do recommend people do some aerobic, but getting moving at all, and 10,000 steps is endorsed by the American Heart Association as will help your cardiovascular health. And you don't have to do 30 minutes at a time of anything. Just doing your walking, making sure you're getting it in, taking the stairs a couple times a day, and paying attention to those steps. I think a lot of people are very surprised at how few steps they actually walk during a day. And so it gives you a goal to reach. It just has to be a goal that you continue to follow.
Where is the wearable technology headed? What do you see 10 years from now if someone's wearing one of these on the wrist? What additional information or health information is going to be distributed?
And I'm just speculating now, this is my own opinion, but I think there's just such an explosion of information and technology about how you can find out about your health. You probably will not just be able to get your steps and your heart rate, you'll be able to get blood pressure, you'll be able to get your temperature, you'll be able to even have some scanners sort of Star Trek wise at some point about what's going on in your body, because the technology is moving so quickly on these things. Now we have these kiosks that you can go in and you swipe your card and it can check your blood pressure, your body fat, your weight. All of these will become more and more refined and more mainstream and smaller to be able to wear. And your Fitbit will be totally connected easily to all of your other equipment. You won't have to do a lot of special things. That's what I think.
Well, you've mentioned the heart monitoring and the like. You've got a program about Take It to Heart, do you not?
We do. We
What's
have one
that
of our
about?
cardiologists talking. He's an interventional cardiologist, and he will be talking about.
Who's that?
Interventional means he does catheterizations and procedures. There are non-interventional cardiologists who do echocardiograms, things that are done outside and non-invasively, and then those that do the stents and opening up the blood vessels, etc. And he's an invasive cardiologist, and he's going to be talking about risks of heart disease, and especially, since it's Women's Health Forum, women's risk. And you all know that I'm so heavily involved in Go Red for Women, and that's because women still do not believe that heart disease happens to them. They can list all the risk factors, they get their husbands to the doctor, but they may be having this discomfort, right? They may be a little short of breath, and oh, it's just stress, or oh, it's just heartburn. So we're still working to get women not only to be aware of heart disease, but to change behavior, as we've been talking about.
There's one chapter in your presentation called "Something's Just Not Right." I think everybody's experienced one of those days.
It really is. This one is specifically about abdominal pain. Dr. Carey is one of our general surgeons. And you know, the belly is kind of a black box to people. They have no idea. The organs are in there, right? What is it? What does it do? But you have a lot of things in there. You've got your liver, your spleen, your pancreas, your small intestine, your large intestine. You've got your kidneys, your adrenals. You've got all of that in this space. And sometimes when you have a pain here, you don't know what's causing it. And so he's going to talk about the various symptoms that go along with various types of abdominal pain. He's going to talk about gallbladder disease, and he's going to talk about appendicitis. It's interesting, I just read an article about appendicitis because typically we always say if you have appendicitis, the most conservative treatment is to have surgery to take the appendix out. But there was a study done recently, very interesting, that watched people. Some people went to surgery, and some people they just kind of watched. Now they looked for if they were getting worse, if they had fever or anything, signs of infection, things like that. But they found that the number of the people in there did not need surgery for appendicitis.
They just got over it, huh?
They just got over it. So it's very interesting how even in something that we've known about for many years and treated for many years, new information comes out.
You've got coming up planting the seed for a good night's sleep. Let's talk about that.
Yes, let's talk about this. So many Americans are not getting good sleep. This is a real issue for us. Some of it's lifestyle, some of it is how we eat, some of it is our lack of exercise, but sometimes people try everything and they just can't sleep. So what we're going to do is talk about, first of all, what are the effects of lack of sleep on your body, because they're pretty widespread. We tend to think of sleep as being when we're doing nothing, but your body is rejuvenating itself during that time. So that's one of the things we'll talk about with one of our psychologists, and then we'll also talk about all the studies that we can do and the ways we can identify somebody who has things like sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a condition where people stop breathing at night. And when they do, then their oxygenation level falls, and of course that's not good for your brain or any part of your body. So these are people who typically snore, who are typically overweight, but not always, and they'll be snoring very loudly, and then they'll stop breathing, and all of a sudden they go and wake up, all right? And that's because the carbon dioxide levels raise in their bloodstream because they're not breathing, and that triggers the response to start breathing again. It's also difficult for spouses.
Let me ask you about sleep apnea, if it's caused primarily by obesity. If one loses the weight and keeps it off, will sleep apnea necessarily go away?
Yeah, it often does. If we could get people to lose weight, and that's not the only cause of it, but it is the major. If we could get people to lose weight, it does go away. And I've had a number of patients who had significant snoring and sleep apnea, and they lost 20 or 30 pounds and did not have the problem anymore. And we have a number of devices now that can be used the sleep apnea devices are much more comfortable and easier to use, and there are different options if something doesn't fit well, makes it more palatable.
Well, what do people need to know about coming back? And if, a lot of people aren't necessarily wanting to spend their supposedly free time on their health, and they need to take more proactive charge of their health, and this is a good opportunity to get some information.
It really is, and we have a lot of fun with it as well. And if you look at the number of places, let me see if I can get my listing of where we are, all the restaurants around town. People have told us that they want to they want to come to sessions, but when they're working they couldn't. So we've made it lunchtimes and evenings so that people are able to enjoy this.
And they can pick or choose.
And they can pick and
choose. They sign up,
choose.
they don't have to do them all.
No, they can pick and choose how few they want to go to.
All right.
And men are welcome too, don't forget that.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Baumen, thanks, and good luck with the Women's Health Forum coming up next month.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here. I drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. But I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
We are back on the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and today's guest was Dr. Ann Baumen, who has the Women's Health Forum coming up, a whole week-long worth of events that both men and women can attend.
Yes, it's very comprehensive, and the topics that it covers, got great people coming in and doing it, and they make it about as easy to attend these functions as you can do it. They spread it around over the city, various locations, restaurants, auditoriums, whatever people need. And I think by and large, it's a pretty inexpensive way to find out about your health.
Actress Andie MacDowell is this year's headliner. All in all, the Women's Health Forum takes place between October 11th and October 24th, but you can sign up online almost immediately. Some website information for our guest and also for our show. IntegrisOK.com is how you can get a hold of Ann, and we have a website, theverdict.tv. That's going to do it. Thanks for joining us on this week's show, and we'll see you next week.